liability, all that. I know we're covered, but like they need to have, it just wasn't paid for them properly. It was, I'm actually inclined to veto it. And if they, look, there's another way to keep these kids, like I got 20 kids who normally playing golf. I could find, 3 guys. Actually, the guy who owns the McDonald's, he'll probably sponsor him himself. I don't want to, it's a mess.
It's just 6 kids.
Yeah, it's a mess. I'd rather veto it. If they're gonna give the grant, fine, we'll.
Yeah. And they take grant back.
This is too much liability, man.
Do you think I need to connect or something?
Yeah, I got it,
Huh?
Take. But it would you.
Okay, yeah, we'll deal with that. I got you.
Hey, sir. I'm fine, how are you? Are you from Southwest Side?
No, that's off the window.
Oh, okay. Hey, Ben. Huh? I can't hear you talking.
I love Cheetos, like you guys are bored though. Hey, how you doing, man? How you doing?
Leave that. Oh.
The only person that's gonna pull up. She was my trying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what they need to see. We're doing our job, we're working beforehand. That's crazy, there's another style. It's been crazy, but that's been drama.
Let's see.
That was my problem. This is not part of it. Look at that. Leaders, when you see issues with insurance, they do it at home. And you try to create a path of
Yeah.
solution. And I'll go along path, like, early on. And then, what was this? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so is he not able to take him today?
What did I not see?
Yes, he's picking them up on several occasions. I guess he's never put his in.
So here we are, but I'm so appreciative.
No, I understand completely, I appreciate it, so, is he able to compete with this staff?
Leadership is about, really not.
No, he's always been in line, that's the thing, yeah, he's never created that.
If you got
He can't leave with them.
3 hours, that's a problem. I'm a real cranky athlete.
I don't have any
Like-
else.
Our consulting firm is on there today and said, hey, leadership schools asking for us to go out there. Pretty much form this year of consulting. What's the forward perception and perception? Well done, I see. Certainly you guys are.
That's
Okay, I'll get it.
Ah, lo siento. I said it to my word. She said, you spoke a different language. Huh? You know what language I speak?
This is the day to be sweated out there. It can be sweated, today.
You slumming it today, huh? Better do it. Better do it. Better do it. Early too.
Guess what is she doing here? It's showing all her children.
Change them, you can change them. Think you're the, so you can change anybody that you see inside here. So if you want to do that, you click more. Find out which one is her. And you can change the name, rename.
Okay.
So turn on.
I'm gonna turn the mic. Can you hear me? Okay, turn the camera on.
Okay. All right. All right, wait. Okay.
It should be Humphreys right here. The camera.
Wait a minute. Turn your mic on real quick. Okay. You can turn it back off. Go ahead. Go to the next one. Turn your mic on. Turn your mic on. Turn your mic on. I didn't see it. Okay. Who is it? Whose is it? You know I'm about to butcher this. Just hit the mic. She don't need the camera. Just use your mic. Who is it?
This is Tony Neal.
Okay. Yeah, how you doing?
Sheila Williams.
Okay.
This is
He gave everybody your name, Sheila. Go ahead. Harlan Hodge.
Yep. This one is Christopher Petty.
That's me.
All right.
I'm being inappropriate right now.
All right, this.
I got it. I don't know the name of Bush.
I think you got them all right.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, had to have it. Okay. So we'll walk. Then you have,
All panelists.
yeah, people waiting to come in, so you gotta figure out, you know, what's in it. Ron Roberts, yeah, I guess that's what my kid be talking about.
Mhm. He should be. The mic should be.
Oh.
He's on the mic. Should be.
All right, the time is now 6 o'clock on this Tuesday, June 14th, 2022 for the Normandy Schools Collaborative public meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. We'll establish a quorum. Ms. Barnett.
Mr. Roberts,
Present.
Dr. Petty,
Present.
Mr. Hodge,
Present.
Ms. Williams, Mr. Neal,
Present.
Mr. Humphrey.
Present.
Thank you, Ms. Barnett. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening, everyone. We'll proceed with item number 2, board items for information, 2.01 down to 2.04, beginning with 2.01. Board training, just a reminder to anyone on the board who has not completed their training or continuous training, please do so. And I think there were some changes in the credentials, so please see Ms. Barnett about that so she could help coordinate the new credentials and accessing the training information. 2.02 subcommittees. The thought behind establishing subcommittees, we have a team of good leaders, and it is important for us to really take advantage of that leadership and that leadership throughout Normandy, which is lifting expectations and delivering exceptional results. So far, the board has established one committee, and that's the transition committee. We'll yield the floor to Dr. Petty, but as we move forward, I'm going to be appealing to you as members of the board to serve as in various capacities so that we could have that specific and discrete leadership to move us throughout this year. But at this time, I'd like to yield the floor to the transition committee, Dr. Petty, who is leading that charge. Dr. Petty.
I'd like to thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak tonight. Good evening, everyone. I'll be brief in my comments. The subcommittee for district transition, our primary focus is one of support for the administrator in charge. Being able to have a thought partner as Dr. Pusateri, steps into this role, we believe is essential to his success. In addition to that, the transition committee's role is to gather input and harness support from key internal stakeholders for the moves that we have to take going forward. What does that look like? That is our administrative retreat, which we're very excited about. That's coming up here towards the end of this month. That is a meeting where principals have agreed to sign on. Principals have emailed Dr. Pusateri and Mrs. Thompson indicating the topics that they want to speak about in that retreat. And we think this is a very interesting way and going to be an impactful way to harness that support and gather that key input from the internal stakeholders. Also, the transition committee is focused on coordinating critical wraparound services to support MSIP 6 standards. And to that end, one of our key community partners for wraparound services is here tonight, Chris Krameyer from Beyond Housing. We have a very special wraparound services program that is planned for the high school, really making sure that our students are serviced in a somewhat of a student caseload of sorts. And I think you've heard me mention the proposal of having an assistant principal, a counselor, and a family engagement liaison for freshmen, the same for sophomores, the same for juniors, and the same for seniors. And we believe this trio of triage, if you will help us do several things. One, the family engagement liaisons will loop with the students as they transition through each class level at the high school. The AP and the counselor will remain in place so that we develop resident experts at those class levels for the district. Some of the initiatives that we've discussed that we're in the planning phases of, we're looking forward to funding a Viking Advantage college savings plan for every freshman that enters the high school this year. It's a 3-to-1 match where students are asked, families are asked to put in $500. We're looking at funding that $500 for every student to, number one, focus their attention on college and career readiness. Number two, give them a reason to stay with us at Viking Call. And most importantly, give them a reason to graduate. So this is just a brief summation of what the transition committee is doing. If there are any other questions about what's happening with the transition committee, we do have meeting agendas and meeting sign-in sheets and minutes. So if anyone would want to discuss those, it's a matter of just simply reaching out. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor back to Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Petty, and thank you for your leadership. Any questions regarding what was just presented? Comments? All right. And again, thank you for your leadership. And I look forward to, like I said, I serve with a board members that are esteemed in many respects. So when I come to you and ask for your leadership in certain areas, just treat it as an offer that you can't refuse. Thank you. 2.03, other areas of focus, any other high-level items that any board members would like to present just for information as we before we proceed with the other agenda items? All right. So the last under item number 2.04, municipal partnership. We have been working very diligently over the past several years, but particularly over the last several months, to make sure that we as a board establish partnership collaboration with our key stakeholders, one of which is the municipal partnership. And we have a representative here today to just give us an update on what's happening with the municipal partnership and to really highlight some of the areas that we focused on or we've identified as a way for collaboration between the Normandy School Collaborative and the municipal partnership. I think Mr. Chris Krameyer is here to provide us with an update.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Real quick, on behalf of Mayor McGee and Mayor Jackson, Chair, Co-Chair Partnership, neither one of them could attend the meeting today. I bring you greetings and excitement about the strengthening partnership between the 24 Municipal Partnership and the Normandy Schools Collaborative. We've been together for a long time, but we're really looking to strengthen where we go from here. A couple of key highlights that the partnership has been working on at the last meeting earlier this month. We spent well over an hour and 15 minutes talking about mental health in the community. We had representatives from BJC, from Mercy, from Behavioral Health Response, really talking about what are things that are going on relative to responding to mental health challenges of adults and children in the 24/1 footprint. Heard some great examples of things that were going on in the region from those three providers and are really working on what does something like that potentially look like for the 24/1 footprint, particularly bringing support to law enforcement and have them not be charged with being mental health officers and counselors and other things. That is not necessarily what they were trained to do. So we're really excited about effectuating and bringing more resources like that to community. There's also been some conversations with the Children's Services Fund, which provides mental health services for children all throughout St. Louis County. And they fund some organizations that in the past have worked inside the Normandy schools. And Dr. Pusateri and I have had a brief conversation about a list of folks who historically have been here, and are they still here? What kind of work are they doing? Is there more that can be done? So, the mayors and the alder people are really interested about bringing more mental health services to the footprint. The second thing that the partnership is working on, which is more tangible and physical in nature, is creating a transportation development district, which is a taxing district, which will bring more revenue to the communities participating, that will work on streets, sidewalks, and curbs. Depending upon which communities you drive around in the 21 footprint, the work needs to be done. So they're looking for innovative ways to bring more revenue to each community, so they can make those much needed repairs to many of the streets. So working collaborative on that. And then lastly, continue to work closely with Senator Brian Williams, Representative Kevin Windham, and Representative Joe Adams on legislation from our state capitol. As a general rule, is not very good for our community these last couple sessions. So really finding out how this community and how leadership of a 24 municipal partnership can advocate on behalf of or against things that either will be good for this community or could be a detriment. So stay focused on that. And again, on their behalf, they're thrilled to have a spot on your agenda. You will see them at future meetings, and not me, because it's their partnership, not mine. Schedules just didn't work out for this particular meeting. They're thrilled to have a rep from the school board at their meetings, and thrilled to be at this meeting as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Any questions, comments from the board regarding what you just heard? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Moving on to item number 3, public recognition. Is that Ms. Sims Williams? Who decided to stay with us and not leave us? I'm just kidding. Thank you, Ms. Sims Williams. The floor is yours.
Good evening, members of the board, Normandy student, staff, families, and community. Tonight we have 2 students that we are recognizing, both at the high school. One is Rashawn Washington Petty. He is the district winner and representative in the Humanity in the Middle essay contest. He received the honor for his essay, A Celebration of African-American History and Culture. Mr. Washington Petty is a rising junior at Normandy High School. I guess I should turn my video on. Second student we're recognizing this evening is Lamonte Polk. Mr. Polk was selected for the 2022 Rosemary Zander Award. This award is presented by the Special School District of St. Louis County, and it recognizes the accomplishments of students honored for success in a variety of categories, including academics, arts, athletics, communications, vocational training, employment, independent living skills, community service, and extracurricular activities. Mr. Polk is a 2022 graduate of Normandy High School. Those are the 2 honorees that we are recognizing this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Sims Williams. Congratulations to Mr. Washington Petty and Mr. Polk for your accomplishments. Continue the good work. And I would be remiss if, I think this is the last meeting that we'll have Ms. Sharifa Sims Williams as a part of our Viking staff administration. And I think it would be appropriate to recognize her and her accomplishments and continue much success. And she did promise me today that even though she's leaving, she's not gone, and she's going to assist us in many ways to continue to make Normandy a better place, right?
That's correct.
That's right. Thank you. She had to be on record for that. All right. Thank you. So now with that, I'll move on to item number 4. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we adopt the agenda. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same privilege. So moved. Administrator in charge, item number 5, updates.
Good evening, members of the board and the community. Just a few things to share with you tonight. I'm going to go mention briefly the budget, summer school update, and construction completion dates. First, we had our first budget workshop in at least half a decade on June 3rd. It's available on YouTube if anybody wants to dig into the details of the budget walkthrough. It's available on our district YouTube page. The headline for the CFO in the audience is that we're looking at a 17% projected end-of-year fund balance. That's pretty good. We do have the end of ESSER funds coming, so we have to be disciplined with our expenditures, particularly our FTEs going forward. That was kind of the headline from the budget message. Tonight, the budget is in the board members have it before you in a booklet, but it is in the consent agenda because we already spent a good amount of minutes walking through the budget on the fair. Summer school. Off to a good start. Over approximately a third of our students are signed up for summer school, with about 27% in right now. Nearly 800 students are in summer school. Normandy High School has 2 sessions. They started on June 1st and will go through July 29th, and students can earn up to 4 credits there. The middles are taking place at Barack Obama, helping get summer school going well and well attended. Dr. Ryder shared that students are receiving phonics for reading intervention in summer school, and they are receiving progress monitoring this week. So Dr. Ryder will be able to share later on the progress of not just what's been taught, but how much has been learned over the summer. So keep an eye out for that in the future board meeting. In addition, all students are participating in diagnostic assessments to measure overall growth from the very beginning to the very end. So students will be assessed in the beginning and at the end, so we can see how they're doing and how much they've learned. Finally, an update on the Normandy High School construction. Updated completion dates. West Hall is still on track for this July to be finished. The bus lot will be sometime approximately December or January. Sphere campus connector in February. East Hall is now looking to be June of 23 completion, with Central Hall to follow after that. There's some supply chain issues that have gotten into our way, but I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that updated schedule. Are there questions for me?
Any questions from the board? Comments?
Yeah, I have one question regarding summer school. We're paying attention to the COVID cases. I heard on the news that 2 districts are going to the mask mandate.
We've been monitoring it. We noticed that St. Louis County went back to yellow today. In general, what I gathered when I visited the summer school buildings was that masks were being worn inside. Masks were available to give to students, and the majority of everyone I saw was wearing a mask when I visited. That's something that we can consider to go to the mask mandate when we're at red, but I think those site visits and then dialogue at the cabinet level and with our consultants will help us finalize that decision. But I do believe that all safety measures are in place right now, but we'll continue to monitor it.
Yes, Ms. Williams.
Connected and so forth. So we open schools this fall. All of those classrooms will be as they were when they left. And we don't have anything to offer any more classrooms.
That's right. At the high school, there will be, everything at the high school in the fall will be the same as it was in the spring semester. Okay.
Is the greatest issue around East Hall is still the acquisition of the doors? Is that still the big issue, or do we have other issues?
We have a new supply chain issue that arose with electrical panels and electrical switchboards. National, international supply chain shortage there. The initial estimates, we've tried multiple ways to see if we can buy our way closer to the front of the line to accelerate that process, to check out all other vendors. And at this point, we believe that it's a safer estimate to say that it's going to be June 23rd, but we're optimistic that one of our backup plans or workarounds is going to succeed and we can accelerate it. Because that's not the goals anymore.
So the door issue has been resolved?
Door issues no longer the deadline that we're watching. That's right.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Dr. Pusateri. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. That concludes item number 4. Moving on to item number 6, items for consent. Those items have been posted on board docs. We've had a chance to review them. We will now, moving on from item number 6 to item number 7. If is there global discussion regarding the items? If not, then we can proceed with, I'll entertain a motion to approve the items for consent.
So moved.
It's been moved, never had that happen before. It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the items for consent. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same privilege. The ayes have it. Moving on to items for information, IT update. Hello.
Real quick. So as we know, getting ready for my transition, in the transition plan, I did make sure we had adequate enough information in relation to the classroom cameras, where they are from starting, when they come back, they can actually move forward and start using them, how to roll them out, make sure we embed the continuous training that has to roll out for new teacher training as well as continuous training for old teachers. The principals currently do have all of the headsets and they're supposed to be prepared to pass them out. When your teachers arise, I think the biggest concern would be substitutes. But I said start with the teachers you have, because the teachers have to have an account in the system. So they would put that account in for the teachers that we do know that will be teachers, and we'll have to see what that looks like. Or they'll have to see what that looks like for, revolving door. Long-term teachers will be okay, but the short-term teachers, I don't know what they do about that. In the preparation for the person, my successor, I guess I created I call it a transition plan. Sharita calls it a transition manual. So it's more than 32 pages right now, but I make sure I gave them everything from topologies of the network to anything that can move him forward. I even I showed them what the previous OU was, so what the current is, and what everybody did in the actual, in our department, then I created, so we have an instance, when I came into schools, was not from education, I had no assistance. So I thought about what I would want as a successor. So I partnered with the CTO at Special School District, the CIO at Parkway. We brought in Mark Howell, who is Director of Technical SSD, and then Patricia Brown, who is the new Director of Information Technology at LaJu, coming July 1st, so that my successor will have a mentor, and so will she, so we can create that cohort together in case they need guidance. And from a cybersecurity perspective, I know we were working on a couple of things and we didn't have the budget for it. IBM did have a cybersecurity grant. When I was on vacation, I applied for it. We find out on June 30th when we get the $500,000, so we can kind of move forward the initiatives to move one step further. Doug Austin and myself has created a K-12 cybersecurity consortium to help schools in general. That's the gist of it.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Any questions, comments from the board? Ms. Williams?
Dr. Green has also supplied us with a bevy of policies around technology auditing and cybersecurity and so on.
I got 18 more for you.
And the really important thing about this, as far as I'm concerned, is when we went to MSBA to secure something, there were none. She has created these for us, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Green.
I have one question, Dr. Green.
You can't get away just that fast.
When we last spoke with the transition committee, you expressed a concern about perhaps some onboarding and training for the incoming director. Have we finalized that, or is that something we still need to discuss?
It depends on how well they digest the transition manual. I do think it's pertinent they truly understand what's going on with the cameras in the classroom. We spend a lot of money in investment. I've also worked with the company and see if they can actually fly them out to Utah for training. So we'll be able to get some solidification on that as well, because they have to get certified. So they have to get certified with HP as well as the cameras like me and Nick did, and we both are leaving. So we have to figure that out.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I
Mr.
didn't
Humphrey.
have a question. I had really a comment. I just want to publicly thank Dr. Green for her contributions to the district, because I know a few months ago I had an opportunity to visit the space room, I call it, because it's in that room, everything you'd ever want to know about technology is in there, to the point that she was showing me a screen. She's like, this represents every computer in the district. If for some reason I need to deactivate it and turn it off, I have the ability to do it right here from the desk. And so that says, you know, that's a lot of technology. I hate to see her go, but I know she's going to do a great work. And I know because of her commitment to what it means to be a Viking, that she's only a stone's throw for assistance. I'm calling that into existence even as we speak. And so I just want to publicly thank her for the work, because she's brought that department a long way into the 21st century. And I, on behalf of the board, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey, for those comments. And apparently you're not as persuasive as I thought you were, because we're losing two key people. So maybe you can work your magic to get them back. But nonetheless, that's right. That's right. Speak that into existence. So they have committed to still being a part of our bold and innovative move to make Normandy a better place. So thank you for your service. All right. Moving on to items for action. Wraparound Services Partnership MOU with Beyond Housing, budget impact 0. Who do I yield forward to for this?
That's to me. It's been good to be back at Beyond Housing. This is the third time in the last month that they've hosted us for meetings, planning, coordination, and collaboration. When we think about our name, Normandy Schools Collaborative, when I first arrived here, that person reminded me that the collaborative in the Normandy Schools Collaborative means that we can't do it together. We need partners. We need partners to help deliver all the services that our children and families need. And it was good to be back in Beyond Housing. We have 3 items that are on tonight's agenda with Beyond Housing. 2 of them are in consent. But this one is one where Beyond Housing is pursuing $1 million to support wraparound services, to support the social, emotional, academic, and health-related needs of our students, including the medical and mental health services that Chris Kramer mentioned earlier tonight. You might remember that Wyman had provided the services, e-services to us, comprehensive wraparound services, a few years ago, and that ended in 2019-20. By having a partner manage this, we're able to really vet all the partners who come in. We're able to communicate between the partners and the principals and families and students about all these opportunities, to coordinate them, and then to evaluate them to see how they're doing. Just because somebody is here connected with us doesn't mean that it's actually helping students. So we're real excited about this, and we moved it to an item for action to showcase it. But it goes along with our overall partnership with Beyond Housing, including the renewal of the fells that Beyond Housing has been able to secure again. 13 fells being provided by an external funder directly serving Normandy students. This $1 million grant will support extra wraparound services at Barack Obama and the Early Learning Center, with the mind of how we can expand that even beyond those 2 schools. As Dr. Petty mentioned at the very beginning of the meeting, our vision for the high school, as Dr. Douglas mentioned at the last board meeting, the needs there and the action step of saying every grade level is going to have a FEL, a counselor, and an assistant principal to lead accountability for social, emotional, and academic gains and attendance of those students. Having FELs be able to, Luke, as Dr. Petty mentioned, to build those relationships with students so that all 4 years of a high school student's career, they have that one go-to FEL that they work with. That relationship, we believe, is going to be a recipe for success at the secondary level. So we wanted to bring this one as an item for action for the board. This specific one has no budgetary impact. We wish Godspeed to the grant writers at Beyond Housing, because these DOJ grants are a doozy, as Dr. Ryder remembers. But we look forward, grant or not, to the continued partnership. And it's good to have Mr. Kramer back with us.
Thank you, Dr. Terry. Questions, comments from the board?
I think the only comment I have is as we look at wraparound services and we begin to go down that path, I think we need to really work on nuancing what that really looks like. Because the needs of our students are so multifaceted, we need to really create that catalog of things that are available. And I'm one of the people, while I really do hope they're successful in getting that grant, but I'm a firm believer that if it's for the students and it's going to help them get to where they need to go, we need to find out how to fund it. Because the success of our children should not rest on a grant, even though we get the $1 million. When the grant goes away, the question is then what? So I think going forward, we really need to look at how we're going to fund that in a more meaningful way, because we know that it's a services that kids are greatly needing out there.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. Any other questions, comments?
I agree with him.
And I would just add that we have not mentioned that part of what we have just approved is also a family engagement liaison coordinator. And what that coordinator will do will focus on particular data points. For instance, average daily attendance percentages, reduction in suspensions, and making sure that students are on track to either recover credits or not lose credits. So for example, a particular focus, if we start the year with 125 freshmen, the family engagement liaisons will be looking to hand off 125 to the sophomore team. So that's the type of wraparound services that we're preparing to deliver this fall for students at the high school.
Thank you, Dr. Petty. And I think what I would like to say is that there's so many challenges, let me rephrase that, opportunities to make Normandy a better place. And with so many of those opportunities, you got to prioritize. So is it safe to say it sounds like we're beginning to prioritize where the most immediate needs are in the plethora of needs that we have, but we're going to get some effort, some execution that are going to yield some results that really impact our commitment to the students and making this a better learning environment?
Absolutely. Strategic allocation of resources back to the buildings, back directly to the students, thinking how can we make sure that that's where we're putting our chips essentially. We're betting on the students. We're betting on we need to put more resources there. And this is one example of that, especially the part about expanding the fellows, where we Normandy funds fellows in addition to the external funder to, as Dr. Petty said, make sure that it's not just 4 fellows at every grade level, but also includes a fellow manager or supervisor who helps manage the data points of the daily attendance, because this is managed and tracked by data, and that's how we can see whether they're being effective or not. And we need to have dedicated staff to be able to track that.
Mm-hmm. And my last question is, how well, it's actually a couple of questions embedded in it. Tracking and measuring success. And then 2, what's the staff function that's going to interact with our partner to ensure that there's effective and efficient collaboration?
So in addition, there is a manager of background services that is also being funded and provided as part of this package, new collaboration with Union Housing. So a full-time person whose primary goal is to ensure that there's dialogue, communication, data points being shared and overseen and managed. I think we can expect to see a sort of dashboard of these partnerships and how the background services are being provided, where it's technically that person reports at Beyond Housing to the Senior Director of Education. But we'll be working closely with our leader and support services as well to make sure that their fingers on the pulse of all the needs of our students.
Thank you, Dr. Terry. Mr. Hodge.
2 things really quickly. I want to make sure that can we confirm that our video feed is working so that the community can access this? If we can affirm that, that would be awesome to know that. Thank you so much. The second thing is that this is extremely responsive to the concerns that we've heard in the community And so we want to recognize and thank our partners for Beyond Housing for that. Want to make sure that we are collaborating. This is an opportunity for us to connect as a school district with the community in a substantial way. And I know that we've got some tracking and accountability that we're doing through PeopleSoft. But I want to make sure that we're partnering with our university resources locally because there's so many resources available through UMSL and the new partnerships that are emerging. So I want to affirm that we are partnering with the counseling services and those things are right in our backyard to be able to connect and support those initiatives.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Hodge. I want to confirm for you that in our most recent transition committee, that did absolutely come up, and we had a robust discussion around making sure that that's happening. I want to just put this one term out there, resource broker. And that's the whole point of having these family engagement liaisons, the coordinator of the family engagement liaisons. They are to be aware of all of the resources in the community and be able to bring them to bear on the situations that arise with our students. So absolutely, I just want to make sure that that's confirmed, that that's a part of what's happening with the transition committee. And if anybody else wants to speak to that, they can, but that was part of the discussion yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Thank you, Dr. Petty. I think as we move on, before I entertain a motion to approve, Dr. Pusateri, you said one thing that was operative, dashboard, and Ms. Williams is still waiting for her dashboard from several meetings ago. So we gotta make sure that this kind of information is getting put out there and put out there in a way that it's digestible. And I think my last comment to that is, I fancy myself being around very smart board members. I'm not that bright. So you got to dumb it down for me. So, but more particularly, as we get information, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of resources out there. We have to figure out a way to deliver what's available so that people understand it and they know how to access it. So that's my last comment. Any other comments?
I'll add this to the dashboard is really important. Everybody can offer something is not good at this. So we have to be very discriminating in who we accept. It's not based on the lowest bidder and any of that kind of stuff. See who works well with our folks and keep them and throw the rest of that stuff out.
Right. Thank you.
Ryan,
Sure,
Mr. Humphrey. One along with what Sheila had mentioned, I know in the past, we actually had a system which was around program evaluation. And so that once a program came forward, we had an opportunity from the front side of it for it to be clearly explained what it was it designed to do. And at the back end of it, we had a process where we evaluated that program in terms of effectiveness. And like Sheila said, when it comes to education, everybody is selling something in the way of education. We have to be astute enough to evaluate it to find out if it's something we want to use or continue to use. And so I think if we need to revisit that program evaluation process and make sure that we're getting the most bang out of the buck for that, because I think that is going to make a big difference, going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. And I think it would be, before we proceed, I think it would be important for hearing from, we have Mr. Kramer here. If you can kind of speak to some of the things that we're talking about, that would be extremely appreciated.
Mr. President, can we also remind students to go off mute when they speak?
Sure. That includes me? Thank you, Mr. Hodge.
Assuming I'm not on mute. A couple things, and a fantastic conversation. It would be our expectation on several things. The first thing is we would coordinate with board leadership on what are the programmatic elements, what are the key things that this board says, here's what our students need. And based on your directive, then it will be our job in partnership with Dr. Pusateri and his team to find those organizations who already have evidence-based practice that says our program works. Here is proof from where we've been before and what we've done and the outcomes. One. Two, we would give quarterly reports in addition to the dashboard, Ms. Williams dashboard. We'd give quarterly updates on how each partner agency is doing in that particular task. So we can flag, for dashboard purposes, red, yellow, green, right? How are we doing? So again, you're always aware of what's happening. In the event that it's green, we applaud loudly. In the event that it's yellow, we're asking a few questions. In the event that it's red, we're asking a whole bunch of questions to again, make sure we understand what are the challenges, what are the problems, and what can we collectively do to have that program be successful for the children of the school district. So again, our methodology in all of our work is ask, align, and act. All right, so we're gonna come ask you first, we work for you. What do you need us to be looking for? What kind of programs, what kind of outcomes are we hoping for the children? Align the programs and the resources to make it happen. We may have great partners, but they may not have the resource to get it done, and collectively have to figure out, okay, if they're really good and we like their evidence-based work and we'd like to have them here, how do we get them here? And last part is act, get the work done. Again, our children need us to move with a great sense of urgency and as quickly as we can. So we will bring that to you. And as we continue to shape kind of our relationship and the operational MOU with you, we have this broad stroke MOU now, but I really want to dig into the details so there's great clarity on what you can expect from us and what in turn we need from you to be successful.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
I just add one more little thing.
Ms. Williams.
Because that, when you said that red, when they appear red, let's be careful about how long we let them be red, okay? Be a little more agile around looking and making a decision.
So, Ms. Williams, I've been around a while here with this district. I've fired some of my not-for-profit friends in the past who didn't deliver back in the day. So if that's needed, necessary. It's about the children of this community, of the school district, not about any not-for-profit and their program.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Again, thank you. And one last comment, just as we talk about communication and utilizing technology, is there a way to, because kids are so smart and we all have these devices, is there a way that whatever we're providing in our communication method, that there's an app that those kids would be able to dial into these wraparound services as it relates to mental health or, mentoring or any sort of thing? But with technology these days, is there something that we have available to us or that we can pursue that allows them to have that kind of immediate access as they would access YouTube or whatever other social media platform that they have?
I'm sure if we ask them, they will tell us. Here's what we use. And it's our job to use that and try to get it to some degree to scale.
Okay. All right.
And that, to your point, Mr. President, when you think about having a freshman AP, a freshman council, and a freshman FAIL, one of their responsibilities would be to make sure that every freshman, every incoming freshman is logged into whatever that app is and using it. And so that's the whole point of establishing those resident experts at those levels, because those will be the things that they will know to do for our kids.
Thank you, Dr. Petty. I appreciate that. And so before we move, I'll entertain a motion to approve the MOU. Just want to let everyone know that Valerie Patton is joining us via the virtual platform. So she is present with us. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. Thank you, Ms. Barnett. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the MOU as presented.
So move.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the MOU for wraparound services as presented. Any questions? Any more questions? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same privilege. The ayes have it. So moved. Thank you. All right, so that takes us to item number 10, board comments. Beginning with you, Mr. Humphrey.
Basically, I had three quick things I wanted to mention. Okay, three things I wanted to mention. One, I think going into next year, we really have to have keen attention around what does parent engagement look like in the district. We can't take it for granted that parents are just going to magically show up. We have to make sure that we're very proactive around that, because I simply say we got to get to a point that parents show up in the life of their children. And so That's one thing. The other thing I wanted to say, also in the way of thank yous, I wanted to make a public thank you to Dr. Douglas, Dr. Floyd, Dr. Ritter, and Sarah Jameson for the amount of work that they did in this school year to bring to fruition what looked like it was going to be impossible, and they delivered for the children. So I wanted to say thank you. And then lastly, I wanted to mention that, as we came through COVID, one of the things that we found out, we were exposed when it came to access for technology for our children. And so I know that we've done some things, we have lots of technology, but we want to make sure in the 24/1 footprint that we have access to technology for all families. I'm not sure what that's going to look like or how it's going to get there, because if we have to pivot to a virtual environment, we don't want to struggle like we've done in the past. So we need to keep that in front of us. How do we make that a reality? Because you all know in practical terms, not only does it support education, but in today's economy, it supports employment, because you have to apply for jobs, electronically and all of those. So we want to make sure that we have, that access available for families, because we know that 40% or more of our families are living below the poverty level, and we got to give them a fighting chance to compete. And it starts with having consistent access to technology. And those are my comments for today.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. Mr. Neal.
I too just want to thank all of the leadership as we are moving forward to open school in the next couple months almost. I like for you to think about, we went into the communities last year, and I think that would be a great platform in order to showcase some of the services that we're going to provide, whatever that looks like, putting together a little booklet or some kind of pamphlet to give out to families and to be able to have a dialogue with the families that this is now available. So just keep that in mind as you're planning for next year. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Neal.
Follow up on that.
Sure.
Just to share with everybody listening as well, August 13th, we're proud to announce our partnership with Beyond Housing for Beyond the Backpack again. We see that as our big kind of back to school event where we invite all principals and assistant principals to come, invite all families as well. It's going to be at Early Learning Center as well as maybe some supplemental activities over at Lucas Crossing. They walked the site today. Our own Alex is leading that. But we feel like some of the energies that went into the community block parties before, what if we really supported this one event with deluxe, basically everything available to students and families there, haircuts, shoes, school supplies, bubble bus, bounce house, all that. So that's our focus right now, Mr. Neal. And certainly your suggestion about bringing all the relevant materials to families at that event will be, is noted.
Thank you, Dr. Pusateri. Thank you, Mr. Neal. Ms. Williams.
I want to thank everybody too. We still have large challenges in front of us, but you guys have really met a lot of those challenges as well. Oh, shoot. I thought I did that before I started talking, but I'm not going back. So, but I do want to thank you. Okay. This weekend, I did attend the Igniting Great Ideas Conference, and I attended the general session. Todd Whitaker was the speaker there. He said one thing that has stuck with me. He said a lot of things that stuck with me, but this one I thought was really important, because he said, let's look at DESE, for example. Let's say that in the state of Missouri, you have 3 dysfunctional districts and maybe 8 dysfunctional schools. And why do you think DESE continues to give edicts for all 500? The only reason he could think of is because they don't know what to do with those 3 districts and those 8 schools. Hallelujah. Anyway, the other, I went to 3 other sessions. The Missouri competency-based learning model was one. The MSIP 6 and how that's going to be unfolded. And then the history of the privatization efforts nationally and then down to our region. So I will give, report on these things. I'll write them up and give them to you. They were very, very good sessions. And I have to say, Dr. Pusateri allowed me to do some preliminary discussions with Dr. Floyd around the MSIP-6, so forth, and she has agreed to kind of lead that for us, to get really in-depth, read this stuff, these manuals and stuff, and help us walk out this process before they get to us, okay? So that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Hodge.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to everyone who's in attendance here tonight and online. It is a very exciting and promising time in our district. There have been some really tough decisions that have been made, and there's a positive direction and a lot of encouragement and energy in our district, and I'm so happy to be a Viking today. Thank you to all of our administrators, staff members, and everyone who has supported the children of our district in this past year and putting us in this good position this summer. Thank you for all of your work. I want to recognize Beyond Housing and their efforts around the Viking Advantage. I had an opportunity to participate on June 7th, a night celebrating our graduating seniors, a class of 2022. And if you thought graduation was a party, there was a beautiful party at Beyond Housing when it was announced that we raised over $1.2 million to support our graduating seniors, not only to go to college, to make sure that they had everything that they needed, books and all of those resources, with a plan to see them through college and through into jobs. And we celebrated students who had participated in the first classes of that and those students who are graduating from college. It was quite a celebration and a wonderful spread for dinner. So hats off to Beyond Housing for that initiative. And I'm very happy to hear Dr. Petty's challenge to us to provide that advantage for every incoming freshman to our high school this year.
Absolutely.
I don't know how we're going to fund it, but it needs to be funded. I really love what Board Member Humphrey says. There are certain things that just need to be done and should be a part of our business. And taking advantage of this 3-to-1 matching opportunity should be available to every freshman and every student in our district. And so I am going to commit tonight to covering the initial funding for 2 of our freshmen to get us started for that. So thank you, Beyond Housing, for making that possible. And thank you to our board for your leadership in this district.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Dr. Petty.
Good evening. I want to thank everyone in attendance tonight. I think that your attendance represents a level of accountability that's needed. So thank you to everyone that's here tonight, both in person and online. I did have the opportunity to attend the certified board member training. It was very eye-opening and very informative. And I wholeheartedly intend upon completing that training so that my service to this board will be impeccable. I also want to say that I had the opportunity to meet board members from all across the region, whether that was as far as St. Joseph or closer, like Rockwood and Ladue. And to that end, I just want to say that I am very pleased to be working with such an esteemed group of people. I want to echo the president's sentiments that this is a very intelligent board. And that intellect means that reason is going to go a long way with this board. And so I'm very happy to be working with each and every one of you. As I listen to you, I think about my role on this board in terms of the transition committee. So yes, Mr. Humphrey, when you talk about parent engagement, that is a focus of the transition committee. One of the things that we've discussed is that we believe the 6 degrees of separation that the family engagement liaisons provide, because they're actually employed by Beyond Housing and not the school district, that allows them to get a little bit closer to our parents. So yes, we are thinking about parent engagement. Also, Mr. Neal, when you think about that pamphlet, that is something that we will wrestle with on the transition committee and figure out how to get something going out to parents before the start of the year about these resources that are available, about the structuring that we're providing, so they'll know in advance how to take advantage of that structuring. And then finally, yes, this is a challenge to raise this money. We did discuss some ideas in our committee meeting on yesterday about how to raise the money. We feel pretty confident that we're going to be able to raise the money. And I'm even more confident that we'll raise the money when we have a board member that commits to funding 2 freshmen already. Let's give Mr. Hodge a big round of applause for that. And so I don't want Mr. Hodge to be alone in his efforts. I too will commit to funding 2 freshmen for the Viking Advantage, mostly because my son has a Viking Advantage account. And I want the same thing for these children that I want for my children. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your comments. I'm not going to allow Mr. Hodge and Dr. Petty one up.
So you're going to fund 4?
3. And seriously, not because there's a competitive thing here, but because I was one of those students. I was one of those individuals that grew up in Normandy. I grew up in Northwoods. I went to Belnor Elementary School. Went to Normandy Junior High School, as we call it then. Anyway, but I was unable to go to Normandy Senior High School for a host of reasons. And many of those reasons are compounded or exacerbated in what we see today. So I'm humbled that I'm amongst a group of esteemed board members that are dedicated and focused and committed to provide leadership to make Normandy a better place. I'm honored to be serving the administrator in charge, our administrators, our staff, our teachers, and staff members who work so effortlessly and tirelessly to serve our community and serve our students. And that's a level of commitment that is unmatched. I haven't been more inspired as I was during the last graduation. Hats off to Dr. Douglas and Dr. Floyd for the effort that providing that leadership and everyone that supported you in that effort. That was a truly inspirational experience. It's leadership, it's innovation, it's integrity, it's execution, is commitment it's required for us to make Normandy a better place. So we're well on our way to do that. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that what I'm most inspired is by each and every individual's capacity to translate adversity into opportunity. And that's where we are right now in terms of where we're going and making Normandy a better place. If those are my comments, any other comments from the board, from anyone else? If not, then I will actually entertain a motion to move into executive session by roll call vote.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Barnett. And we will proceed with executive session. Thank you, everyone.